it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Bart. Bart Ruben Rozema has been trained in lean methodology by the Sensei of the Spanish Lean Institute, the University of Barcelona, and the International Lean Global Network. He currently resides in Tenerife, where he's the general manager of Hotel Dreamplace hotels. Having started in the service industry at the age of only 15, he has seen and experienced many examples of badly designed processes and how they can impact the customer in the hotel industry, the guest experience. The implementation of lean in Dreamplace hotel chain has been groundbreaking, and Bart has presented at Lean Global Summits in 2018 and 2019. Bart has translated many lean books into Spanish, and his book on the subject of lean in hotels, I believe, is going to be available very soon. So thank you so much, Bart, for joining us. Can I ask, just before I hand over to you, Bart, can I ask people if you have any questions or any comments, please put them on chat. We are going to make sure we have plenty of time later on at the end for your questions. But if thoughts come, please go ahead and put them on chat. Over to you, Bart. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Peter. Thank you very much for your introduction and for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to share our journey with fellow professionals, with anyone really, but especially with fellow professionals in Lean, because somehow the questions that we get, they always help us to see things from another side or to learn something new. So very happy to be here and very excited to share our journey. Also because the journey has been long and tedious and a lot of fun in the progress as well, if I'm honest with you. I have been a general manager of Hotel Tigotan now for about 5 years, but I've been involved in the organization and in the process for the last 7. I've got a little presentation prepared. We've got that. It should take no longer than about half an hour. If it's okay and you like it, I would like to do a small Gemba walk of perhaps 10 minutes, just to give you an impression of the hotel and some of the lean tools that we've got implemented in here. I obviously can't show you everything. We don't have time for that, but you are all invited to come with the excuse of a lean case study. It's a very, very excuse to come to Tenerife and enjoy a week in the sunshine. So here we go. My purpose today, or our purpose today, is not to teach you how to use lean tools or explain the principles. I mean, you obviously know that, and there is other workshops that can do that much better than I can. But I would like to try to inspire you to run experiments in your own businesses and create a system through which you can learn from the app. I'm sure that most of you already have that, but examples always lead to inspiration. So even if it's just a grain that I can give to you, I'd be very, very satisfied. I would like to explain to you how we do lean, some of the experiments that we did, some of the reflections that we did in the last 5 years, and obviously the Q&A. I made it in the A3 format because I think we're all very familiar with the A3. So we're gonna start with the background, the initial situation, proposed, plan, and follow up, just as if it was a proper A3. Once upon a time, there was a little island known as Tenerife in mid-Atlantic Ocean in the Canary Islands, and that's where our story began. I'm Dutch myself. I was born and raised in Holland, and I came over to Tenerife when I was about 16. And I started working in the hospitality industry. I already had started in Holland, but I continued it here. So I don't know whether I should call myself Tenerifian or Dutch. It's probably a hybrid of both. But for those of you who are not familiar with the Canary Islands, we belong to Spain. We're part of Spain, but we are not within the Spanish mainland. We are 7 islands. 8 really, just off the coast of Africa, about 150 kilometers out of the coast of Morocco and the Southwest Sahara. Our island is gorgeous, and it's also very good for holidays because we have a very consistent temperature throughout the year. At the moment, we've got about 25 degrees, 23. It's still, the beaches are full, and that's basically all year round because we're so close to the equator. So it's a perfect destination because we have stability. One of the foundations of the lean house, we have that as well in our normal business process. There is always a certain amount of occupation, which helps a lot when you want to stabilize processes. We consist of a business that have 7 hotels at the moment, and another 2 which we don't own but we do manage. But when Lean started, we were only 4 hotels, 3 in Tenerife and 1 in Lanzarote. At the moment, we've got them as well in Gran Canaria and in Mallorca, but it all started here. We have 5-star hotels, 4-star hotels, family orientated, more luxury. And for example, the hotel that I work in, that I manage, it's called the Tigotan, and we are a hotel that is for adults only, and we are more focused. Our lima is lovers and friends, so it's a hotel very much focused on couples. And obviously, we have a lot of services and a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. I'm sure that most of you spend more time in hotels that you probably like to. Do you know how many flows there are within a hotel, how many touch points we've got with the guests, and how many experiences we deliver throughout a single day? So there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes to make sure everything is running smoothly. And for that, we have an amazing team of over 1,000 employees, divided into the 4 hotels, now 7, and the main offices. We've got about 200,000 guests coming through here per year. Most of them, they stay about 8-9 nights. So we're speaking about 2 million room nights a year. What was our initial situation? Well, as many of you know, the tourism has had a rough couple of years. It's had a rough couple of years because we had to reinvent ourselves a bit. First, there was the crisis of 2008, sorry, the big financial crisis that hit all of us, which put down our profitability. Now, that would not be a worry for many hotels because they think, well, it's going down now, well, it'll go up again. Whereas for us, it was an eye-opener to say, no, something's got to change here. We can't keep pressing for higher income. We need to do something with the cost, because there'll be a point where the price will be marked by the market, especially with how internet was coming to be with TripAdvisor, Booking.com. We come to a certain point where you can only you can ask a set price according to the market. You can't put it up through the sky, because nobody will come anymore. They go somewhere else, because it's not like 20 years ago you get a magazine or a catalog in your house and you look at the wee little pictures and you read the 3 sentences and you cross your fingers and you go. So something had to change. We made a conference in which we decided that a change was needed, and we started looking for, okay, so what management system could be of use to us? And around between 2011 and 2015, to be honest, we were a bit lost, adrift. We knew that something had to change. We knew that we had to change our business model, improve it. Because if not, we die a slow death. We started to implement something that we call Plan Talento, which is the talent plan, if you want to translate it into English, in which we already started to give a more personalized focus on our staff and personal training. And from 2015, we implemented Gemba walks. But that didn't really have any effect, because we didn't really fully embrace a cultural change. That all changed in 2016. In 2016, we had a conference of a gentleman called Luis Cuatracasas, who is one of the gurus of lean here in Spain. He's also the president of the Spanish Lean Institute. And our head of operations, our COO, went to one of his presentations and he loved what he saw. He brought it back to the company. He shared it with the rest of us. We started reading into Lean, and especially the classics like Lean Thinking by Womack and Jones, and The Machine That Changed the World, etc. We started to implement some policies. We started to standardize a few things. We started to establish paths of communications. So from the upper management to the board of directors, to the floor, to the agents and back. We started to have more meetings with different disciplines within the hotel world. So whereas before, all the receptionists, they would meet with receptionists, the accountants with the accountants, and the maintenance with the maintenance, we started to mix them. We weren't quite sure yet why we were doing it, but we had the feeling that we needed to be able to create a business, an organization where there was information flowing from one side to the other one without any barriers. We started to implement personal improvement plans. We started to speak more about our strategy, leadership style, our organization. And we started to make a game plan, a roadmap. And many of you have seen these things before. And honestly, although it hurts to admit, all of these things sounded very nice. We were very happy with ourselves and very proud of ourselves because, you know, we're being modern and we're embracing a new mythology that nobody else does. But if we're completely honest, they were just decorations. We were not really believing in the tools. We're not assuming them as part of our way of doing business. Many people in the organizations thought that there would be a passing trend. Now, we started to focus on people, products, and processes. That was actually the main change. We started to see that our business was not a business of there is a customer somewhere around the world that's looking for a holiday, he looks on the internet, he comes to us, he stays here, he's happy, and he goes home again. There is so much more involved. That one should always be normal. How can we be special? And we decided, and we found out, together with the help of the International Lean Institute and their coaches, that the way we could make a difference was to operate through processes, to focus on the people and to focus on the product. A couple of years later, we found out that this translates into lean thinking, into working in pool, into eliminating all waste. But at that moment, we didn't call it like that. We just said, we're going to focus on people, products, and processes. Now, which kind of problems we had? There are conceptual problems, but there are many problems within the actual hotel. And we decided that the best way of entering lean and the best way to arrive into an entire lean organization was to start with the bottom, to start with the operational processes. As you know, an implementation can be top down, bottom up, or both. We decided to go bottom first. So the way we introduced lean to our staff, rather than some magic words or some initiatives that came and went, we decided to help them with the problems. We decided to help them with the problems through a lean tool, which is the A3. The A3 is what we think a very good tool to introduce lean because it basically connects everything. It connects eliminating waste, connects finding solutions for complex problems, and it gives a chance for the mentors, for the coaches, to speak about all of those concepts of lean, which are difficult to explain because we had difficulties understanding how lean could apply in a hotel. When you read all the books, when you read all the literature, I'm sure that you can understand how it works if you've got a car factory or if you are producing something on an industrial level, but there is very few literature on how that works in a service environment. So we started with that. Let's solve the problems of the people that we work with. And we're sure that if we solve the problems through a certain methodology, this methodology will gain credibility, and people will start to get curious, and people want to start to learn to use it to solve their problems. So which problems can we encounter in a hotel? Well, I'm sure that all of you have been to hotels there, you can recognize it. There could be the problem of the check-in, the internal queue to check in. It's one of the worst things of arriving to a hotel, and the first thing that you see is, oh God, I have to wait 20 minutes even before getting my room key. Now, customer view is that frustration because there is a long line to check in. The worker view is very frustrating as well, because what they see is 4 or 5 guests, they're all screaming at them, they all want to get inside the hotel as soon as possible, and for one reason or another, they can't. They don't know why. They just know that they're not going to get what they wanted when they want it. And for a worker, that obviously causes a lot of stress. Consequences. To make sure that that problem doesn't exist, we put more receptionists. We don't work on the process, we put more receptionists. That was the old way of thinking, just to avoid the customer has to wait. When a customer goes through the hallways, all he sees is the car of the girls. The car of the girls that say, oh my God, I can't. Why is nobody cleaning my room at the time that I want? The worker, what do they see? They see no disturb signs, and they think, oh God, now I'm gonna fix that. I had 16 rooms to clean today. These 3-4 people want to lay in. That means I go home half an hour later. That was the old solution. Rather than fixing the process, we just throw more resources at it. The customers won't have an early check-in. Many times they won't be able to give the guests a late check-in because we need to clean the rooms in time for the people coming in. And so what do? We put more housekeepers. In the buffet, the same. Why is it that there is always 10 plates laid out, and the one that I want to eat is always finished? It's such a, I always thought it was the Murphy's Law. Then investigating, we found out that it's not Murphy's Law. It's perfectly logical. The consequences of it for the worker is saying, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to do magic? If I cook, the people eat it, nothing I can do. I only have 2 hands. And so the solution there again was, rather than fixing the process, let's make bigger food batches. Less variety and frustration because you can see your work getting trashed. And the same goes for maintenance. As a customer, all you see is, God, I can't use the installations that I want to. As a worker, you're getting crazy because you get a pressure on you that is not nice, because you want the customers to be able to enjoy the swimming pools. But if you need to make a repair, you need to make a repair. Consequences of this, unfinished tasks, because the guests, they have to use the swimming pool. Let's just finish it however it is, and well, we'll see next week what happens. Quality is bad, timing is bad, and a lot of tasks that just don't get done with. So what did we do? What was our proposed situation? Basically, this was our agenda. We started with training. We started with our first A3s. We started with, in the 3rd quarter of 2016, with Hoshin. That one was something that was purely focused on management. That's for us to keep an eye on things are going, really. Amalia and me, we came on board in this hotel. We started to doing A3s that were more strategical, not so much on problem solving on the front line, as not on the business side of things. We started to do standardization, job instructions, and flow by subgroups. Subgroups are little teams that are made up of about 10 people, and it consists of frontline workers with one manager to make sure everything flows well. But the manager is not there to take any decisions. All the decisions are taken by the frontline workers. because we think that they are the ones that know best what's going wrong. They are the one that's executing the processes. They are the one that have contact with the customers. So they should be the ones that fix the problems. Not saying, yeah, you have the problem, fix it, give me results. No, giving them the tools to actually be able to fix them. Every single worker in our house, for example, has half an hour a week on the boss's time to think about problems, to think and to meet with other subgroups and find problems. We started working on standard leaderships, transversal vision, the value street map, daily management system, Hoshin, and we ended up with Kaizen. Now the little improvements that in the end improve a lot. What have we learned through all this process, all this training? That you need to convince people by doing. That you need to convince people by showing them that it works. Lean can't be a theory. It can't be something you learn out of books. You might get a notion. You might learn some Japanese words and some translations, yes, I'm sure. But you won't be able to understand and you won't be able to embrace this new cultural change if you don't actually see with your own eyes that it's working, that it's showing you results. And that's why we went rather slowly and we went through the front line rather than through the managers. We decided we would have 5 guiding principles in our cultural change. Don't wait for the CEO to take decisions, but take decisions on the front line. Do it fast, make mistakes, learn from them, and take another decision. The famous Wheel of Deming. Try, BDCA. Try, do, and plan, try. Plan, do, act, correct. And next principle, we think about very, very good what your next move is and why. Because one step, as this is on the management level, one step in the wrong direction can disconnect your team again. The third one will be make it your problem or choose the right problem. The fourth would be right knowledge at the right time for the right people. And the last one would be cross-pollination between different areas of the organization. The first point would be don't wait for the CEO. Well, maybe a little. In the end, he is the CEO, so you can't just forget about him. But we can't wait for the CEO to take decisions for us. That's not his job, nor is it the manager of the hotel's job. The CEO isn't somebody that is in the office somewhere. You know his name, but you basically never see him. And the same goes for the manager of the hotel. You can't be just a name or a business card or a suit that walks around looking angry, correcting people. The new role that we needed to find for this cultural change for the CEO was he can't be a stranger. He needs to be in touch with his staff. We've got about 1,000 people working here, and it's impossible to know all of them personally, but our CEO knows of the 1,000 people that work here, at least roughly what they do and who they are. And of the 500 more senior members, he knows their names, faces, and of many of them, a bit of their situation back home. He attends to the hotels. He doesn't stay stuck in the office. He comes to the hotels, comes to the Gemba, sees the problems with his own eyes, which then helps him take decisions. What his role is to my priorities, because he is the one that has the best strategical view. Perhaps he hasn't got the best view of which problems are more urgent, but he does know where the organization should go towards, where we want to be in 5 or 10 years now. And the other 2 roles that we implied that wasn't here in our organizations are change agent and area manager. Those are completely new problems, new positions. The area manager is the leader and the owner responsible for the change within the organization. So the area manager was always people that have been with us for 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, but for quite a long time. And that isn't necessarily an expert in lean, that isn't necessarily an expert in mythology or tools, but that knows the problems, that knows the place and knows the people. That's the person that we need to form, and then we need to trust. That's the people that's going to drive the change on the Gemba. And on the other side, there was the change agents. Change agents is those who drive and methodological change, that explains, that helps us understand the A3, the concepts of flow, the concepts of waste and how it can be eliminated. Can be internal, can be external. We started with only change agents externally, or from the International Lean Management Institute. Oriol Cuatro Casas was our main sensei. And over the course of 2 years, we trained change agents within the organizations. We've got 2 now: lean practitioner, lean professionals that has also done their courses on the University of Barcelona. Those are what we call now change agents. The next very, very important thing in our transformation is, what is your next or your first move? Choose very, very well. Choose your problem very well. Is it important right now to choose a problem for the organization, for the staff, or for the customer? We decided to don't start with the customer, to don't start with the guest. It might seem very weird, but we didn't think that would be the most effective way. We started with ourselves. We started with our own team, with our own people. And so many times we were not really increasing added value to the guests. We were just reducing non-value time for our teams. But they started to see that the methodology was working. And following this methodology, following the A3, following value streams, they started to work better. The same amount of hours, well, a bit less, because if I'm honest, before Lean, we were supposedly working 8 hours a day, but usually it was about 9. But that came down to 8, and it didn't move from there. So people started to have time to do other things, time to think about problems, time to dedicate to the client. And that was the moment where we made the jump to organization. Okay, we have clear that this methodology is working. It's helping me in my little square meter of the hotel. Now let's see if this works for the hotel as a whole. That did. We established flow within departments. We started to look at the flow of the customer as a whole, rather than different stations where you hand off the customer, the guest, from one side to another. No, reception gives it to the rooms division, so they clean the room. They give it to the restaurant, so the restaurant can do their bit. Restaurant gives it to the bar, so they do their bit. No, this was all one single flow where everybody had a certain amount of responsibility, which is the value stream in the end. And lastly, about 3 years ago, we really started focusing on the customer, on the guest. We didn't care anymore about what your problem was. We just wanted to see everything from a guest point of view. And I think that was the correct tactic, because if we started at that, if we would have started with the guest point of view, there would have been a lot of resilience. Would have been a lot of, oh God, there's another way of showing us what we're doing wrong. And we probably wouldn't have had the convictions, at least not the entire team, that this was going to work. Now, the value stream, the stream mapping, we introduced in the later stadium, in the second stadium, not the first one, not when we focused on ourselves, but when we started focused on the rest of the organization. Because even if you start with just a small problem, if you do that through a value, you'll probably end up attacking other parts of the processes. And we didn't want that yet. That was for the second part of the transformation of the first one. We started in every hotel individually, because we can't copy and paste solutions. That was never our aim. The important is learning how to deal with problems, not so much the solution. That's secondary. Each side is different. And the strategy was these 5 steps. So we're going from the chaos to the stability, from stability to standardization, from standardization to a flow, and from flow to a management that actually attacks the most urgent and the most important problems, rather than, well, let me rephrase, that actually attacks the important problems, not the urgent ones. For the first exercise, we needed to make sure that it was our problem. We needed to design this project to create ownership and capability, to empower the frontline teams to solve the problems of the organization rather than the managers. So it achieves our team well. A team needs to contain all the actors of the problem. So if there is a problem with, I don't know, the swimming pool, we needed to involve the technicians that make sure of the water, the lifeguards that were taking care, the cleaners that were cleaning around the pool, the receptionists that give the information on how to use and when to use the pool. But it can't be too much. More about 6-7 people is our maximum, because if not, things go haywire. Would be good if they would be influencers, so people that have a certain influence within their team. And there's 3 very clear defined roles within these problem-solving teams. The area manager is, let's say, the senior leader, the one that we talked about before. The person that is not necessarily an expert in mythology, but is an expert in the Gemba. They break down the problem and give them to the teams. We usually have about 6 or 7 problem-solving teams working at the same time. And this is the area manager would be the one that says, okay, this problem is for you and that problem is for you. The A3 leader would be the leader of the problem-solving team that helps, facilitates, and the change agent is the one responsible for the methodology. So for the capability and the coaching. Sometimes the other 3 are the same person, but more often than not, they are 3 different persons. We wanted to make sure that we've got the right skills, the right people at the right time. The balance between know and trying experiences, and the coach that helps to create habits by learning by doing. And by making A3s, we create leaderships in change agents, area managers, and in team skills. And we learned all of the teams, all of the housekeeping, for example, all of our housekeeping, if you ask them, we've got about 50 of them, what's an A3? They will all be able to respond to you what an A3 is and how it works. And same for the chefs, same for the waiters. Everybody knows that. Same for the spaghetti chart. Why? Because we consider these are the minimum tools to infect people with lean, if you want to call it like that. The A3, to overcome obstacles, to solve problems. The value street map, to collaborate. It's for us a tool that we use to create collaborations between different areas and to show people that it's not your process, it's our process. Spaghetti and visual management for us is a way to convince people that their old habits are not necessarily the best. And standard is just simply our way of working. We decide all together how we work. But once we decide it, there can't be any deviation of that. And lastly, but not least, the cross-pollination. Share and accelerate your learning. Once you see that one of the 4 hotels of the chain is moving more quickly, first of all, the hotel wants to move as quickly. It's just natural. We are very competitive and we want to go at the same rhythm. But it also helps us to get ideas, because if they're going faster than we are, obviously they know something that we don't, or they've done something better than we have, methodologically speaking. So we're learning from each other. And in these lean days, we bring new eyes, new views to the table. They also bring some pressure on the dates, because what we do is we share our A3s. We come together, not the 1,000 people of the organization, because somebody has to take care of the guests, but we usually are about 200 people. And we explain, we show about 20 A3s and show them to each other. This also helps put some pressure on the dates, which is never a bad idea. Oh, get your A3 done before the 1st of March, because we got the big monthly meeting where we're going to show our A3, so make sure you've got it done. It's a positive push to learn. In the end, being together, creating energy is always a good stimulus to bring back to your hotel. No? That was internal. We did that quarterly, so every 3 months. Everything visible, everything in panels, everything in best practices, nothing to hide. Not only the success, but also the failures. And externally, we did cross-pollination by visiting other organizations in different sectors. So, for example, we took a big delegation and we went to see legal seafoods in Boston, in the USA, because they're one of the leading examples of lean in food. We went to see El Hospital Clinic in Barcelona, which is one of the leaders in the transformation of lean healthcare. We went to see the bakery 365, which is also in Madrid, Spain. We went from 10 bakeries to about 1,000 bakeries in a 3-year time span, just because they applied lean. There's a very good book about them, by the way, which is called The Lean Bakery, if anyone is interested, which is a very, very small book, but it's very, very interesting. And that was a way of infecting everybody, let's say, with the lean virus. Just to show you some of the Gemba examples. So this is my hotel. I'm here, you can see me inviting another hotel to the Gemba and showing them some of the A3s that we've been working on. This was actually a presentation for another hotel in another country. That's why everything is in English. Obviously, normally everything is in Spanish. And we had different A3s, Show Me the Money, the Sunbed, Chaos. These are all originate from the team. The bar, this is a bar which is called Café del Mar, which is on the rooftop. They have a team of about 10 waiters and one middle manager. And they had issues and they fixed them with A3s. Show Me the Money was a problem about the income. They were not making enough money. So they opened an A3 and they turned the situation around. They find a way to make more income without going up on the expenses. Some problems with the sunbeds because we've got infinity pools up there. The problems don't really matter. What matters is that they saw a problem and they fixed it through an A3. And these are people that haven't finished, some of them haven't finished high school. I mean, it's sad to say, but we were from Canary Islands. Education here is not necessarily as good as it is in Western mainland Europe. And just the fact that they were able to understand and to work with this mythology was something magic. It started happening all over the hotel without us pushing. People started to realize that this was the way forward. This one, for example, is an A3 of complaints in the beach club, which is one of the food and beverage outlets. On the photos here, you can see that many of the problems, they were fixed by moving the furniture around, by doing five S's, really. And our A3s, they all look like this. The moment we see an A3, a nice, neat, if it's made in a PowerPoint, that's already a big no-no. The more crossed out, the more dirty, the more wrinkled the A3s are. For us, it's an indicator that it's done properly. Because it needs to be done by the ground team, it needs to be done by the front line. And the front line is not going to lose 10 minutes to put it in PowerPoint and make everything alive. Why? What matters is what's inside. As you can see, our value street maps, they are made with, well, Post-its, and that's it, nothing else. Hishikawa, oh God, how do you call it in English? The fishbone diagram, maybe. It's just a pencil and paper, nothing else. This is our value. This is how we value street map on the ground level, on the frontline workers. Obviously, on management, we tools that are a bit more elaborate, but I prefer seeing this. You see the different lines, different flows. You can see Café del Mar, you can see the food, you can see the bar, their flow and the problems. All the green Post-its are problems. And we went smoothing them out one at a time. This is one in A3 that goes about how the best way of serving a customer. There you can see a little spaghetti chart, which is one of the tools that we use a lot to make the problems visible. This is a standard, just a random standard that you can anyone. This, for example, is a standard of how we serve, depending on how many waiters there are. So the first one would be how to serve the bar and the hall, as we call it, if there's only one waiter. Obviously, does everything. That's what's easy. When there's two, one stays in the bar and one stays in the hall. I don't know what you call that, the dining area or the where you sit down on the table. When there's 3 persons, when there's 4, when there's 5, when there's 6. It's something very, very easy, something very easily made. You can see it's not fancy, it's not designed by someone famous or somebody that studied for it. It's just a way that said, okay, understand what you mean. We need to have a standard, because if not, we're just running around as headless chickens. Everybody's doing everything. So why don't we take a sheet of paper, we design how the bar looks more or less, and we make a standard. And this is working so much better than any standard that's been implemented from up. Now, the Kanban, I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the Kanban concept, especially in manufacturing. In a hotel, Kanban translates to stock, to beverages. Now, we've reduced our stock with about 75% from 2016 to now, with the same amount of beverage being consumed. Why? Just because we got rid of the just in case stock, and we got more frequent repositioning. As you can see, we have 2 different systems. Now, one of them are the little yellow thing that's around the bottles, and the other one is the little blue things that are around the bottles. They're different forms, different shapes of the same system. Once you arrive to the Kanban, which is the order point, you take away this one from the bottle and you put it in the Kanban box, which you can see on the picture most left, that little blue box. At the end of the day, people that are in charge of ordering take out all the Kanban signals and order what's on the Kanban signal. Everything is calculated so that it'll arrive before the last bottle is finished. Minimum stock, minimum thinking. It's a little bit poka-yoke because you can't make any problems anymore, or you can't make any mistakes anymore. All you have to do is, when you finish the bottle which has this thing on it, you need to place it in the box, and you need to order at the end of the day what's in the box. That's it. That's it. Imagine 4 years ago, we had a central warehouse. That was the worst idea we've ever had. And it's been eliminated since then, thank God. But that was the reality for about 20 years in this hotel. So rather than the supplier going and putting it directly in the bar, it first had to go through a warehouse where there was some guy who was earning quite a lot of money for doing so, taking it out of the boxes, sending it somewhere else, who then, in the points of sale, they had to take it out of the boxes, put it in the shelves. It was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous because there was no flow, there was no delivery whatsoever. And with this system, it's much easier. Mistakes can't be made. This is one of the most famous A3s that we did because it's been showcased in quite a lot of lean conferences and forums, which is the mojito. How to make a perfect mojito. If you want later, I'll go into it, why it was so important, but because it's basically, it comes together everything: problem solving, standardization, flow, value added, non-value added. This is one that was made in the computer, so that's already a little no-no, but okay, whatever, we'll forgive them also, because I know that the head chef, he's quite good with computers, so it's not something that has cost him a lot of energy. And this is called the best breakfast of Tenerife. It was an A3 to make sure that we serve the best breakfast in Tenerife, and we've got about 1,000 hotels here, so that was quite a challenge. But it's good because we cut down the amount of time needed by about 66%. We managed to actually be in the buffet serving the customer 3 hours rather than 2.5. So this was good because we learned to convert non-value added tasks to value-added tasks. I got one to the spa, I won't bore you with that. And this, for example, is quite curious because I imagine that all of you did spaghettis. This is the difference between a housekeeper before and after applying standardization and the lead process. Now, how to clean a room? Nobody with management intervened. The housekeepers, they talked among themselves. We gave them a certain set of rules which they had to play by, which means it can't be more than 26 minutes per room. You can't use more than that much product, and it needs to, the end result needs to be this. But how to get to that end result? The actual girls, they did that. They talked about it and they decided on a way of working. And throughout the years, through Kaizen, they've gotten better. But just from making a spaghetti and speaking about how we should do it, in about 2 months, we went down from the first picture to the second picture. So that's from 231 meters that the cleaning lady walks just to clean one room, we went down to 162. And from almost 32 minutes, we went to 25 minutes. All by taking the best practices of each of our housekeeping and putting them together. Because there were about 30 housekeeping, and one had a very good idea about how cleaning the shower, one had a very good idea about how doing the bed, another one had a very good idea about how doing the balcony. And putting them all together, we got these results. I just wanted to show you this phone because I'm the manager, I like talking, but this is our head of housekeeping.
Aquí tenemos el A3, el que hicimos, el primero que se hizo en el departamento, que fue el de viaje de toallas, aquí en la lavandería, los movimientos que se han hecho, las mejoras, pues hay mucho más orden, ya no se pierde tanto el tiempo como hacíamos antes, sobre todo del movimiento, de sacar y entrar ropa y de colocar en la estantería. Bueno, al principio le parece a uno porque no está acostumbrado a ver las cosas, y cuando empiezas a observar es cuando realmente te das cuenta de la pérdida de tiempo o del hecho de pararte a ver cómo se pueden hacer las cosas de otra forma, que ha funcionado muy bien. Seguimos trabajando de igual manera, que como hicimos una vez hecho la 3, y muy bien, porque aprendemos a observar. Y observando es como vemos los cambios que podemos hacer. Aunque si funciona en un hotel, pues sí, funciona. Y porque no solo con este, lo pongo como ejemplo, con nuestra primera T, pero hay muchos otros que ya hemos hecho y la verdad es que muy bien. Así que, gracias.
Actually, I was a bit nervous for that video. In reality, she's a lot more exuberant, and it just goes to show that the A3 is for us was a perfect way of explaining all the other concepts that have to do with lean, and it needs to be adopted by the front line. In this case, he's a middle manager, not really front line, but they're the ones who need to drive the change. Once we started to have a little bit of a lean culture, we started to implement daily management and Hoshin. That is basically was the crown on everything there. Basically what put together everything. So what put together values, what put together A3, what put together pool, what put together value added, because this is where everything started to make sense. That's why we've been doing this and that and the other one. We call it an arrow. It's our daily management system. It's basically a value stream map of the customer and how he or she or it flows through the hotel and which stoppers there are in that process. We see them as traffic lights. No, if all the traffic lights are in green, that means the customer, the guest can flow from the moment that they check in until the moment that they check out through all the processes that we have in the hotel without any hiccup. And we audit them every single day. We've got our frontline that come to write down here on the panel if their standards have been executed well that day, or if they had any incidents. If everything went well, all right, no problem. See you tomorrow. If there was an incident and it was just really an incident, everything was going well, and yesterday there was one day where there was a hiccup, no problem. Continue. Try to make sure it doesn't happen again tomorrow, etc. When there are 3 or 4 days where we mark that we haven't been able to comply the standard, we intervene and we go to see what the issue is. That's the value. And on the other hand, there is the Hoshin. I don't know if how many people have experience with Hoshin Kanri, but for us it was the crown on the work, because it's the strategical part of Lean. I have a Hoshin as the manager of a hotel. For me, it's the way to manage. I don't rely on emails from the CEO or emails from the finance department that's telling me that I'm losing money. No, I can see that in my Hoshin. I don't need any other information. Everything I need to manage the hotel is on Hoshin. Actually, we always conceptually, we always say to our team, I would say to my team, my goal is to be in the Bahamas one day. And all I have is a webcam that focuses on my Hoshin. And I'll be able to manage the hotel from my lazy chair on the beach somewhere in the Bahamas, because all I need to see is the Hoshin, and I'll know what's going on, what's going well, what's not going so well, and where we need to improve. The last three slides, the lean days, which I told you before about, are the cross-pollination. Here you can see our different front staff members explaining what they've been doing, their problems, their values, the value street maps, sorry, the A3s, and sharing is caring. Now, what are the actual results of all that? There you've got it. We went from an online reputation from 85 to 91 in 2018 and 90 in 2091. Which is the ISC, is the internal satisfaction, went up a point as well. Both in so these are two different hotels. In our hotel, it went up 10 points. Occupancy went up 3 points. You know, occupancy is important, but it's almost more important for what price are you selling your room. And it went up from 76 to 127. Now we can't put that all down to lean, because the market has to do something with that. But we estimated about 70% of that rise, of that €50 rise, almost doubling how much we pay, how much we ask for a room, can be credited to the way that we work, the way that we've eliminated waste. And last but not least, very proud, very happy to share this picture with you. Who is that young girl and that old geezer? Well, they came to visit us. They came to visit our hotel, and the gentleman that you see there, some of you may recognize him or not, is John Shook. John Shook, one of the big three of Lean, of the originators, no, together with Womack and Don, sorry. He was the big guru. And the other one is Monica, who is also in Lean. She's Italian and she works at the University of Milan. But it was a great, great honor to have one of the biggest Senseis in the world and one of the founders of Lean to come and see what we're doing. They came, they stayed, they gave us a lot of good feedback. Really, I understand why he's such a Sensei, because he spent 3 days, nothing else. And we've learned more from him in 3 days than we've did from some other people in 3 years. But it was honestly an honor to have him. And the glitter horse is our mascot. If you ever come to the hotel, we're more than happy to show you our glitter horse, because it's a bit of a lucky charm. Thank you very much for attending this presentation. I'm hoping that I was able to show you a little bit about how Lean can be applied in hospitality. It's different than in other sectors. We can't have the same focus in hospitality than we have in for example, manufacturing, but it is possible. Flow is everywhere, pull is everywhere. Those concepts don't change. We just need to find a way to translate what is pull in manufacturing to what is pull in a customer based. And actually, if I'm honest, hospitality and service industry is amazing for Lean, because there's no other industry where you have so many chances of doing learning cycles, PDCA, as in hospitality and service. I mean, we've got every single day, we've got about 10,000 opportunities to test, to experiment, to learn, and to improve.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you so much. That was just incredible, really. And you explained the journey incredibly well and made it really come alive. Now, I know you said you might take us to the Gemba. Is that possible? Maybe just for 5 minutes? Maybe you can just take us to one location.
Yeah, sure.
What
I
I'll
can
do
do.
is
If you want, what I can do is I can do very, very quickly, 5 minutes. Then I can show you 2 of the examples of standardized work.
Brilliant. That would be great.
And I can show you my cockpit from where I manage the hotel, which has got a daily arrow and my Hoshin.
Your Hoshin, fantastic. So what I'm going to do, Bart, is I'm going to put your mobile. So if you can put your mobile video on, and what we'll do is we'll mute you on the main where you are, and I'll unmute you on your mobile, or you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I should have also put down the the speakers. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Right. So, Bart, if you take us there, then what we'll do is once we've had that little walk around, maybe you can stay at one of the locations, and we'll just ask you the questions from there. That'd be really good. Okay.
Yeah,
so
sure.
5 to 5 odd minutes for the Hoshin, and then we can ask the questions from there. Great.
Okay.
This is wonderful. It's good to go to the Gemba and actually see bits of your hotel. Right. So I need to put you need,
Okay.
yeah, we need. I'll just put your mobile on spotlight.
There we are.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So this is our hotel. Hola. Hola. This is our reception, and these are our receptionists. They are all professionals in lean, and they they love to make A3 standardized work. And if they ever have any questions, for example, in the reception, Sana, for example, is one of our new receptionists, and she's learning all the processes, every single thing that she needs to do by this little blue book. In here, we've got all the job instructions of every single thing that can be done. This one, for example, is getting money from the bank, as you can see by the pictures. This one would be what to do with the tickets of the guests, how to do the check-in, how to assign rooms, how to make parts for the maintenance team. And as you can see, there is a million of them, and we try to revise them every single year. Every single year, at least one time, we go through them and make sure that they are still actual, still good. I just wanted to show you one, and anyone really. Here we go. Doesn't really matter which one.
That's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
They're all the same. They contain pictures, step, key points, and the reason why. Now, basically, it's what we do, how we do it, and why do we do it. Because if our frontline understands the reason why we do certain things, they probably won't forget again. Whether if we only tell them you have to do it like this because we say that you have to do it like this, and they don't really understand why we have a certain way of working, they'll probably forget it in about 2-3 days. Now, another example of standardized work which I can give you is in our bar. This is the lobby bar, just across from the reception. There is our mascot, which is the horse. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo está? As you can see, first of all, there is 5S applied, very much so. And for example, one of the things that were most difficult to standardize here was cocktails.
because every waiter made the cocktail as they thought best. Everybody comes with a certain experience, and everybody thinks that they've got the best way of doing it. But what did we see? A lot of fluctuation in cost. One day, with the same amount of cocktails served, 1 month we could spend 200 bottles of rum, and the next one 250. The guests didn't have a consistent quality. Sometimes the cocktail was better than the other one. So one of the things that we did was standardize the cocktails. If they ever have any issues, here you've got the cocktails in a very, very easy way, with exactly how much and how to do it. For example, I'm not a barman, but I know that if I want, I can make a pina colada. That's how it needs to look. Okay? Needs to be made with a shaker. It needs to have ice blocks, not crushed ice. It takes 30 milliliters of white rum, 20 milliliters of manga, a bit of Malibu, a bit of pineapple juice, and 4 grams of white sugar. And everybody needs to follow this, every single one. How did we determine the standards? Were the waiters that decided how to make it. But once everybody decided on how to make it, we need to go through with that. Nobody can not do it that way. Here in the now, this is a bar that can make about 250, 300,000 euros a month, and this is the stock, nothing more. It's just might seem as a lot, but it's very, very few. Also standardized. Also here, this is a different type of Kanban, because they work with
We're just losing you a little bit, Bart, your signal a little bit.
batches, so you've got how many needs to be there, or that inventory, which we do once a month, goes.
Hi, Bart, we're just losing you a little bit. We're just losing your signal a little bit.
Hello? Are you still?
We just lost you for a bit, Bart. We just lost you. You're back. You're back.
Okay. My apologies. Probably the Wi-Fi.
No, I think we got it. We got the amazing Kanban system for the different drinks, so that you don't run out, but you always have enough supply to match the demand.
Exactly. Well, now I'm going back to my office then. People are checking in.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bart. That was, I think everybody here must have just loved that Gemba walk, because we actually see it live and in practice. So I'm sure people have questions. Oh, here, yes, of course. Show us your Hoshin. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, and then I'll leave you with all the questions. This is our daily management system, what I was explaining before. So it's basically a value that follows the guests from checking in, going to the room, going to sleep, going to shower, going to the pool, going to sleep, going to eat, and going home again. And all of them, they've got these standards. Usually it's going well. Sometimes, for example, here, as you can see, we had an issue. All right, no problem. If there is an issue, we've got these cards, which we put, which are like, well, I believe in Agile, they're called deliverables or something like that, which basically states who's going to do what to turn the problem around. And this is my question. I'm very proud of it because it's brand new. We used to do it in paper, but after using it for 4 years, I thought it was time to make it a bit more neat. And so what we did is we made this out of metal, and we're using a type of paper that's with magnets. So this goes on here, and it sticks. It doesn't need to work with any Post-its. It doesn't need to work with any whatever. what is it? It's got five main indicators: security, quality, delivery, economic costs, and people. I have my main KPIs on here, and as soon as I see that one starts to go down, we open an A3 on the subject. These are more complicated A3s. These are not frontline A3s. These are your middle management or management A3s. Every A3's got an indicator, which goes here. Here I see whether it's going, the A3's working or not. And this last one is for quick actions. We use the kata, the questions to analyze what we're doing and see what we can do better. And that's basically it. With this little panel, I'm able to control and to manage the hotel. And that's basically it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bart. Do you want me to shift you back to your other camera? I'm going to shift you back, Bart, to the other screen, okay?
Yeah, please, because my internet is more stable there.
Brilliant. Okay, great. You're back. So we have about five odd minutes for questions. So let me make a start on them. The first thing I'm going to ask you, Bart, is what happens? Oh, we have a little bit of. Let me just unmute you.
Yeah, cheers.
Right. Why can't I mute? Okay, I think that's okay now. But first question is, what happens when new people join? How do you, and I understand, of course, you have all the procedures, but how do you make sure the person joining is going to be the right mindset to work in the hotel?
First of all, by assuming that it's not easy. It's very difficult. And we assume a 30% of failure because people say yes to something that when they don't really know what they're saying yes to. Mm-hmm. And lean isn't for everyone. And that's okay. Somebody who doesn't believe in lean is not the worst person for it. It's just not for them, that's all. So first of all, that one, we need to be convinced that there's going to be a higher percentage of failure here than there will be in any other organization. But having said that, it's training within industry, really, that's the secret. Showing them how it's done, doing it together, explaining them the whys behind we do what we do, and empower them. Not everybody likes to be empowered, especially here. We've got a culture that isn't perhaps as advanced as the west of Europe, and some people are scared to be empowered. Some people, they prefer a pyramidal way of working. Let me just have a boss that tells me what to do. I don't want to think. Let me do my 8 hours and I go home. And that's fine, it's just not for us. So very close training, explanation of concepts, and empowerment would be the main 3 things that I think we do different here than in other organizations.
Thank you, Bart. And my next question before I ask others is I guess a bit more of a personal question, but what was the darkest or most problematic time in this journey? Because it is impossible to have change without the downs to get to the ups. So when was that moment, and what was the turning point for you?
But for the organization, I think the main. I've got for me, there was a very tough moment where the team that I was leading at that moment was just telling me what I wanted to hear. They were not really believing in the lean system, and I convinced myself that they were. So it took quite a hard wake-up call for me to realize that people can say all they want about whether they believe in lean or not. People can know the Japanese words. It doesn't mean that they actually believe in the key values of lean. And the other way around, there might be people that don't know that any official term, but they've got lean within them already. They were born with it. And that for me was very hard. The moment where I woke up and I thought, if I continue like this, I'm gonna fail, because I'm gonna be implementing a system. I'm gonna be convinced that everything's working. I'm gonna find out that it's not like that, and then I'm just gonna give up. For the organization, it was more difficult to make the transfer from the most difficult moment was making the teams make mistakes that cost us dearly. Realizing that they were necessary to make the transformation. But even so, it was very difficult for us to accept, because we were used to punish mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Correct. To allow that ability to learn from mistakes and to make mistakes, it takes a lot of courage and difficult moments. So thank you, Bart. We have quite a few questions. So, but first, I think Maru's question is a good one. Maru, do you want to just unmute and ask it? We only have a few minutes, so let's keep the questions and replies as brief as we can, so we get everybody in. Go for it, Maru.
Yeah, sure. But I was wondering if you're familiar with any elements of agile thinking. I'm purposely using the word thinking to constrain our discussion to anything, any kind of agile thinking elements you're familiar with, you've heard of. And in that case, does any of these agile thinking elements resonate with you in the scope of your work on lean ops? I'd be really curious.
Sorry. Yeah. Very much so. I believe that lean and agile are in two faces of the same coin in many ways. Not in everything. Perhaps lean, I think it's got a bit more concepts that perhaps agile doesn't have. This is pull that originate more from the manufacturing side of things that I think are very interesting. What we use of agile is project management, as in our company or in our hotel. We have cyclic processes, which we tend to solve with lean. And those are the processes that keep repeating themselves. But when we have a project of implementation of a new system, a new idea, a new, for example, now we are changing the software of the hotel, the entire PMS, the entire property management system. We are changing that. And to do that, we're using Agile. We're using sprints, we're using scrums. We've got 2 scrum masters that like to do that. We just don't ever call it Agile, to be honest, because we don't want people to get confused. But in reality, we are using it. We are using it very much so, but more on the project side of things than on the cyclic side of things. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's interesting for me. I'm really just interested in your perspective, in your perception from your position. We'll probably all have different understandings depending on where we are, where we work. So that was very enriching. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for your question. I honestly believe that, as Keaton said in the beginning, whether you call it lean, whether you call it agile, whether you call process thinking or system thinking, there are many ways. There are many new Six Sigma. In the end, we all focus on the same: customer in the center, eliminating waste, and creating pool, creating flow. Call it however you want, but these are the bases, and we all compare. We're all big family. One might have blonde hair and one might have black hair, but we all got the same drive within us.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bart. Ranmo, I know you had a question, and then we probably have time for one more question. So if anyone's got a question, just put it on the chat. Over to you, Ranmo.
Thanks, Ketan. And Bart, my question is, I was really interested in what you were saying, and something that grabbed my attention, right, was how you said you took away the warehouses, right? Now, coming from a banking background, we still have bigger warehouses than our walls. So that's something that I really need to focus on as well. How did you manage your suppliers? Was there any complaints, or what was the biggest challenge you had with your suppliers?
The biggest challenge that we had with our supplier was incrementing the number of deliveries that they were willing to do. Many of the suppliers used to come once a week. Now, when you have this high of turnover of products, it's pretty devastating to have a 1 week delivery, because you get very large batches. And as you know, what we want to avoid at all costs are big batches. So we had to renegotiate with them. They even upped on some products, they upped the price, 1 cent or 2 cents. It's isn't really much for us, but okay. And we allowed that. We could have gone in harder. We could have gone and said, no, either you do it with us or you lose our business. But no, we said, all right, you want to compensate the fact that now you're going to come 4 times for a week rather than 1 by putting a cent on top. All right, do it, because in the end it's going to work out cheaper for us anyways. And that was the biggest challenge, convincing them that coming 4 times for a week would not only be good for us, but would also be good for them.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
For your question.
I ask you, Remo, which in banking, which kind of warehouses do you have? I mean, obviously not golden bars and physical money, or are you referring to that?
No, what I meant by warehouses is we consume a lot of A4 paper, then we have a lot of marketing material,
Okay.
then you have your stationery stuff, and then you have your print, the computer printout rolls and like that. So this goes into about sometimes 30-40 different items.
Cut down the number of references if you can. Implement a Kanban system that works in full.
Great. Thanks, Bart.
Thanks. We have time for one more question. Chris is going to ask you, but I just thought I'd give you a quick anecdote. I remember I won't name, there's a big automotive supplier, and I visited their warehouse, and they had stock of diaries from 5 years ago. And I was like, what are these diaries still in here? Yeah. But you know, so it's a great example of waste. Chris, over to you for the last question.
Hi, Bart.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Extremely impressed by the amount of lean you have been able to implement across the organization, and the amount of adoption.
Breaking up. You're breaking up a lot on your mic. I don't know if it's your mic, but just try again.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it clear or is it still breaking up?
Better. It's better. Go for it.
It's better.
Okay. So yeah, it's rather late here, so maybe that's one of the reasons I'm talking quietly here. Yeah, what I want to know was, that first of all, I'm really impressed by the amount of adoption you have, in terms of lean implementation in your organization. How did you overcome resistance to change, which I'm sure you would have had upfront, and did you sort of experience that hockey curve type of that journey that people go through during transformation, where there's initially a lot of resistance and then they lose interest, and and then it takes time for you to sort of build that momentum.
Yeah, very much true. I think we had a very wise sensei, Oriol, that from the beginning helped us, because if not, we would have made more mistakes in this very critical part of the process. Now, when you have to convince the rest of the organization. The solution for us to overcome the resistance to change, bringing it down to the front line and solving their problems before solving the problems of the guests or the problems of the organization. We focused first on the problems of the front line, so they would actually buy into this kind of problem solving and this kind of organization. And from there on out, it went smoothly, really. Once we started to fix problems as that I showed you before, like receptionists that get 10 angry guests at the same time screaming at them because they want to have their room fixed as soon as possible. That was a reality for 10, 15 years. Then we started doing 8-3s, not the first one, not the second one, but after the third or the fourth one, which would mean about a time span of 4 months, the problem disappeared. And the people were so grateful, because they were working under a great amount of stress for many, many years. And a bloody piece of paper managed to solve that issue for them. So that was for us the big factor, that, and showing everyone that all the non-value added that we eliminated was not going to be eliminated at all. It was just going to be changed into value-added time. Because one of the things that we heard mostly when we implemented Lean the first couple of months, years, this is to work with less people so you can fire us, isn't it? It's normal. So we were very, very cautious not to go down on the amount of resources the first couple of years, rather than implement them differently.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bart. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris, for your question. Thank you very much, Bart. I'm going to hand over now to Ranmore because we have run out of time, but I'm very much hoping you'll come back at some point for a part 2. I think there's a lot to learn and for a lot for you to share still with us. So over to Ranmore.
Thank you, Ketan, and excuse me. I think, Ketan, you've organized something fantastic, and we have a lot of participants from all across the globe. So I think that's it's a great thing, and it was fantastic to hear what Bart has to say, and your sharing your transformation journey was actually a lot of valuable insights for all of us, right? And I think there is a lot that we can learn and implement in our organizations as well. I was just when you were talking about what you did, made a few notes as well, and I think that will come very handy. Something that really came up strong for me is the 5 principles that you brought up, and the first and the fifth were the most interesting for me, I would say. Don't wait for your CEO, and the next one is the cross-pollination, and really how you made the A3 a living document, right? And it was nice to see how the handmade A3s, right? There was a time when I did that, but now I've gone back to doing it on the computer and PowerPoint. So I think that's a good indicator to go back, right? And do it on the ground. So I think that's a valuable take, right? And then how you use Kanban and how you reduce the inventory is a real achievement, I would say. That has been a challenge, and I think it is a challenge for a lot of us as well, right? So a lot, and then really looking forward to joining you for the world's best breakfast someday at Tenerife, right? With that, I would like to also thank all the participants who have joined, and now it's pretty late in some parts of the world, so thank you very much. And once again, Bart, thank you very much for sharing that valuable experience and your journey with us.